Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Glenn. This is Glenn's Bookshelf, and I wanted to just record a short video kind of wrapping up 2025 and to talk about this book. This is 15 Wild Decembers by Karen Powell. I finished this on New Year's Eve. 15 Wild Decembers is a fiction book, and it is about the Bronte sisters, Emily Bronte, who wrote Wuthering Heights, Charlotte Bronte, who wrote Jane Eyre and one or two other books, and Anne Bronte, who wrote The Tenant of Wildfeld Hall and wrote Agnes Grey. And the book is read in the first person by Emily. The author uses Emily as her protagonist, and it's a really good book, and it tells the story of really mostly about Emily, but it does tell quite a bit of the story of Charlotte and Anne as well as kind of supporting characters. They were, pretty close knit. The book kind of starts off with Charlotte and Emily going to like a boarding school when they are children. Anne Bronte is back home. She's at this point in the story too young, I guess, to attend school. The two older Bronte sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, are already at the school, and so the story starts off there, and I don't know how long they were there. If they were there for quite a year, but Mary and Elizabeth, really the whole school, a sickness, illness, flu, tuberculosis, sickness sort of passes through the area and through the school. Mary and Elizabeth return home, and unfortunately, each of them pass away. And so that leaves four Bronte children, along with the one brother, Branwell, who I think is older than Emily or Charlotte or Anne. And the rest of the story goes to their various attempts to get schooling. They live with their father, who was a pastor, an Anglican priest in England, and eventually, as the girls grow up, Charlotte becomes a teacher, and Anne becomes a governess for a period of time. And Emily, I don't know if she became a teacher at one point, but she is mostly stays home to sort of take care of the home and her father, and then eventually, as the girls get older, there are plans to set up a school at their home in which all three of the girls would be teachers, but that never really quite comes to fruition. But they do eventually all become published authors. The book sort of talks about how the girls all had this very active imagination, and they sort of created this alternative reality of different characters when they were children. And but the books that they end up writing are really not related to that at all. And so Charlotte is the older sister, and I don't know whether I think all of their books sort of came out around the same time, 1846, 47, 48, I think. And again, Emily was the author of Wuthering Heights. Charlotte wrote Jane Eyre, and Anne wrote she wrote one book first. I'm not sure what the first one was, but then she eventually wrote The Tenant of Wildfeld Hall, and that's what I think kind of put her on the map. It's the larger of her books. I may have some of these sequencing and the facts wrong. But ultimately, it's a very well written book, but it is ultimately a pretty tragic story. All of the Bronte children die relatively young, or at least the father survives all of his children. And as I mentioned, Mary and Elizabeth, the two older daughters, have died, a few years before. And then, again, kind of not very long after their works were published, they, first it was Branwell, the brother, who got sick, and he was somewhat troubled. He developed a drug addiction and an alcohol addiction, and then he died. And then I don't know, it was 3 or 4 months later, Emily died, and then maybe 4 or 5 months after that, Anne Bronte died. Charlotte Bronte was the last surviving sibling. She lived until, I think, 1855, I want to say. And she was 39 years old, or almost 39. So she lived the longest by far. Emily Bronte was either 30 or not quite 30, like 29. And Anne Bronte, who died a few months after Emily, I don't think made it to age 29. So they, it's a real shame. It's a real tragedy that they died so young and so soon after gaining attention for their published works, which was a bit strange in a way, that although none of the sisters published under their names, they published under pseudonyms. The thinking being that they didn't want their sex being a limiting factor in making sure that they were published and read, so they each chose pseudonyms for themselves. Emily Bronte was Ellis Bell. Charlotte Bronte was Currier Bell, and Anne Bronte was Acton Bell. And so those were the names that they were published under. The title 15 Wild Decembers refers to an Emily Bronte poem. Either that's the title of the poem, or it's just a phrase in one of her poems. And I'm not sure exactly what it's a reference to, but it's a very good book, and I would suggest that the last 15 to 20 pages are about the last, kind of the final weeks of Emily's life, and I found it to be pretty tough reading. It was well written again, but it's just very, very sad and very tragic. And so, if you read this book, I would suggest, for the last 15 to 20 pages, I would suggest making sure you're around the loved one, whether they're your partner or your four-legged companion. But I would highly recommend this book. And I really liked how the author kind of inhabited the mind of Emily Bronte, and how she related to her sisters and what her sisters were like. And so I really enjoyed it. So I heartily recommend 15 Wild Decembers by Karen Powell. I got this from the library. I may add this to my collection at some point, but for now, just happy to have read it. So that's it for this video and for today. But I will be back soon with another bookish video. Thanks for watching.